All right. So I will put it, just be aware of that. And so what we've been working on this, we've been working on paper number one in the sense of find evidence that will work in paper number one. And we've been working on the works cited page, just trying to get a draft down, mainly to see, you know, okay, what misconceptions about it do you have? And let's just work our way through those. So yeah, I'm just trying to get to where everybody's got evidence for one paragraph. You want to get a 5 out of 5 on that. Keep submitting till you get a 5 out of 5. Same thing with that draft works cited page. And actually, this is a draft. You might not actually use any of those sources, but if you get a 5 out of 5, it shows me, okay, you know how to do this. That's the main thing. You don't want to be held back by that. So that's one thing we've been doing. The other thing we've been doing is working with Toolman logic, the 3 terms about how to analyze an argument and trying to get used to that. So I've been responding to people as they turn in stuff, trying to get you all to that 5 out of 5. Before I move on to anything else, let me ask you this. Any questions about these assignments? Anything that you're not sure of or want to talk about? Think about it.
Yeah, I wanted to get some help on like my evidence pieces, but I'm guessing that's something I could ask you after class or something, or
Yeah, definitely. Ask me after class. You get more specific help. And I just want to remind people, I've had in my other 103 class, a few people have said, hey, can I just talk to you on Zoom for a few minutes separate from the class? And I'm happy to do that. And just as a general note on evidence, you know, I'm trying to promote the idea that a good writing means you've got a narrow point, not a big broad point. If we're just doing a single paragraph on a topic, pretty specific point. So you don't want a paragraph that says, oh, there are many, many benefits to switching to electric cars. That's already going to be a weak paragraph no matter what. You want to say something more like, switching from gas to electric cars is going to specifically reduce our carbon emissions or something like that, that we can focus our evidence on. And then you want 3 pieces of evidence that do not repeat each other. They can't all say the same thing. And all of them need to say something, though. They have to have a specific information. They don't want to just repeat the topic sentence. We want to have actual information, testimony from an expert, data from a study, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm pushing at. That if you get that done, you've got a paragraph that's going to be pretty tightly written, pretty well supported, and then you're going to write the corresponding paragraph on the other side of the issue and try to do just as good a job. So I have 2 fairly strong arguments on each side of this of the issue that you're dealing with. That's kind of where that's going. What, anybody else got a question on anything specific or general? Okay, then let's go right to this class exercise to kind of remind you where you were last time when we were talking about how to do Toolman arguments. So here's what I've got. I've got an exercise where I've given you 2 new little arguments to look at. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Identify the claim, identify the evidence, write out a necessary warrant to the argument. I'll put you in small groups to do this. You got 2 arguments. Just give you X amount of time to do it, and then I'll just kind of call you back and see how that's going. All right. This is a discussion board thing. So just post your response. All right, guys. Looks like I've got most of you back. I got most people back. Okay. Let me see. Let me go here and I want to see if I get all the responses in. So Toolman argument. Okay. Got 4 responses. There's a 5th response out there somewhere. They must still be working on it. All right. Just want to, so let's take a look at what Julian's group did. Julian, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good enthusiasm. So take us through your argument in the first one. What did you say? Go through the claim, evidence, and warrant.
So for the first one, we said the claim is that the payday bar is the only one choice for the greatest candy bar of all time.
Now you're aware of what a payday candy bar is, aren't you? You sounded like you don't even know what a payday candy bar is.
No, I know what it is.
All right, okay. What's the evidence that the payday is the best candy bar?
We said that it only has nuts, nougat, and a little bit of salt.
And then you said the warrant that the guy is basing this on. What's his belief? The
simpler the candy bar, the better.
Okay, that's a pretty clear argument to me. I just want to see if other people agreed with you. Michaela, you've got, yep, I think you guys have the same idea. Let's see. We got Charlotte, your group has, I think you got the right idea here. I think you guys, yeah, okay. I think most of it's coming together. I think that works pretty well. So that one's not too hard, but let me stay on this with you, Julian. What if I wanted to argue against this? What if I don't want the payday? I don't believe the payday candy bar is the best candy bar. I want to argue against it. And I always do that by I start by attacking the warrant. Can I attack that warrant?
Yeah.
What's the attack? How do you attack that warrant?
Would if you like a more dynamic candy bar, I guess.
Okay. No, I think that's great. That's great. Because basically what you're saying is, that argument's built on this value, which the guy hasn't even stated. And when you attack the warrant, all you're doing is you're isolating, you're figuring out, oh, that's your value. Your value is wrong. And you built your argument on that value. I don't share that value. So your argument doesn't hold up. So I say, yeah, the best candy bar is not the simplest one. The best one's the most dynamic one where the many ingredients mix together. Therefore, the best candy bar is what, Julian? What's this dynamic candy bar you were thinking about?
I don't know.
But somewhere out there. And it didn't have to be dynamic. You could have just said, no, the best candy bar is not the simplest. The best candy bar is the one with the most chocolate. The best candy bar is not the simplest. The best candy bar is the one with the highest sugar content. The best candy bar is the one that's the healthiest. In other words, there's no evidence for this warrant at all. It's just the person's like assumed belief. And I'm just letting him know, I don't share that belief. Because I don't share that belief, your evidence doesn't matter because all your evidence is based on that belief. That's kind of why that's the counter argument. We'll start doing that more next week. What about this next one here? Lakela, how do you feel about this next one? Are you guys confident with it? The one about the moon?
Yeah, we're confident about the claim and evidence.
All right, let's say, so that was a long one. That's long, I'll try to get some longer ones in. So you're saying the claim is that nobody has actually walked on the moon. That's the claim. And the evidence was no available witnesses, no missions since 72. I think the key there is that there's no witnesses. There's no available witnesses. So based on that, you're saying the argument assumes that if there are no witnesses, then it did not happen. Now, when you make that warrant, Lakela, are you talking just about the moon landing?
Yes.
I mean, would it be fair to extend this belief beyond just the moon landing for this arguer?
I mean, hey, maybe they can go into like conspiracy theories.
Well, is it? I'm going to say it. I'm trying to get. What am I trying to say? I think it is fair. In other words, I don't want to say the warrant is the argument assumes if there are no witnesses, then the moon landing did not happen. I think that's what the argument's saying. The argument assumes that in any situation where there's a question, you have to have witnesses or it just doesn't exist. So I would take out the word it. I would just say the argument assumes that if there were no witnesses, nothing happened, something like that. I'm just trying to say it's a pretty broad thing. I would accept this warrant on a test. I get it. I don't want it to be just about the moon landing. I think this guy's got a larger warrant in mind where just to prove something's true, there must be witnesses. That's the idea. I mean, is that what you guys intended, or were you just talking about the moon landing?
We were talking about a lot of stuff. We were kind of confused about the warrant.
Okay, but I think you're close enough. Charlotte, your group said that, though. He said if there are no witnesses, no way to prove something happened, then it didn't happen. That's good. I think this works. This works for me. Charlotte, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Charlotte. What about this? What if we wanted to argue with this guy who made this argument, and we wanted to say, no, I want to say the moon landings did happen. How do I attack his warrant? Oh, you know what? Always start with no. Because warrants are not defended. So the easiest way to attack was, no, that warrant's wrong. And then just come up with an alternate explanation or something that fights against that warrant.
Would bringing forward witness accounts?
Well, that's what he wants. He thinks there have to be witnesses to prove something happened. That's his warrant. I'm saying, no, you don't have to have witnesses to prove something happened. You just need what? Do we always need witnesses to prove something happened?
No.
Give me an example. What are you pretty sure has happened, but you weren't around? You don't know anybody else who was around to witness it.
Apple falling from a tree?
You mean, do apples fall from trees? But I've witnessed that myself. Are you talking about Newton? Luis, was that you? Are you talking about Sir Isaac Newton and an apple falling off a tree in that historic moment?
Yes, sir.
Was that really what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty famous story. All right. And do you accept that as true? That happened?
Definitely.
All right, but you were not there. There's no witnesses around. All right, but then why is it true?
It's possible. It's very likely to happen.
That an apple could fall. I'm just talking about that specific thing, Isaac Newton. The apple falls, hits him on the head, and he comes up with the 3 laws of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, Charlotte, are you getting this idea of what we're trying to get at? Do you have an example with this?
I couldn't think of one, but I know what you're trying to get at.
All right, I'm just trying to say, I mean, you guys, was George Washington the first president of the United States?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because my history class told me.
Oh, but was your history teacher there?
Maybe.
No, your history teacher's not some freak mutant who lived for 250 years. No, I think there's so many things that happen without witnesses, and we accept them as true. And we accept them through historian reports or through scientific studies, etc. We don't need witnesses to prove a lot of things are true. So yeah, so this is an easy argument to debunk. Like, I know there are 9 there. I know that Jupiter is farther from the sun than Mars. I don't need witnesses. It's in every single science book. Anyway, that's our counter to that one. It looks like most of you guys have this down pretty well. Let me ask you this. Anybody any questions about this technique of finding the warrant and arguing against it? Any questions in general? Okay, this is a little exercise to not count for anything. It was just really about having you guys work with this again. And yes, there'll be some more exercises just like this one coming up on week 4, which I'll put up after this class. Let me get you guys up and out of here. Okay, and this too. All right. Let's talk about the other thing I want to talk about today. So no questions right now about claim, evidence, or warrant. You're okay so far. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. You will get more practice. I will add on the counter argument. I've got a few things I want to say about claims, but you got about 3 weeks of that stuff coming up. Now, the other thing that's going to happen in week 4 with the homework, which I'll put up the homework for Monday, and it'll all say for Monday on it. I'll do, like I said, I'll do that later. The next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to take your evidence for one of the paragraphs that are due in paper 1, and you're going to have to write that body paragraph as a draft, the full body paragraph or partially. So to do that, you have to do the first 2 steps, which we've kind of already worked on. Make a topic sentence that makes one clear point. All right, most of you have that. Find 3 pieces of good evidence. Most of you have done that, or you're close to doing it, and it's not that far away for most of you. So you will, hopefully, next time you work on it, you'll have found the 3 pieces of evidence. Now we're ready for step 3, and I'd like to kind of get step 3 done for Monday. Like, you've got it done, you submit it for Monday. You write a draft paragraph of for that, using that evidence. So to do that, though, what I wanted to talk about with you guys today was what is the way that you link evidence to your own writing when the evidence is kind of, it's factual or statistical, et cetera, or you've got fairly long quotes. To do that, this is what I work with in my classes. I do this. And so and since I do it for every single paper, I'm going to just talk about it briefly with you right now. I won't take up too much time. Here, this is, we're talking about integrating quotation support. So that means if we were doing a literary analysis, like in English 101, you'd have quotations from the text, and you'd have to use those quotations to try to prove something. And here we're doing the same thing. We're just finding research in the form of quotes, and we're using it to prove something. My method that I use is called the hamburger method. I use it because it works with no matter what kind of paper we have. And you'll see that in this class. I'm saying hamburger method every single paper. And the evidence you're bringing into papers is very different from one paper to the next, but this will keep working. And so what people have got transferred to other colleges have written me back sometimes, sent me an email saying, hey, that stupid hamburger thing, that actually is working here. I don't have to learn how to do this. I get it. And all I'm saying with the hamburger technique is that there's 3 basic parts to using any evidence at all. The most important part. What's the most important part of the hamburger?
Meat.
Cheese.
The meat. That's what you pay for. But all right, Marlon, you said that. Marlon, if you go to In-N-Out and you order a double, and you go up to there to get your double, and you look in the bag and it's just 2 patties of meat dripping in the bag, how do you feel?
Well, that's not what I paid for.
So you feel ripped off?
That's a Flying Dutchman.
Oh, is that what that's called? Well, that's stupid. Nobody's sure of that. I didn't know that was part of the deal. So you'd feel ripped off. Wouldn't you be a little mystified and confused?
Yeah.
Okay. That is exactly what happens when people give you evidence, because that's the meat. Evidence is meat. People give you evidence and they don't prepare you for the evidence. The top bun and the bottom bun are to prepare you and to hold it all together. And that's the way you should treat every single piece of evidence you ever use in anything you write. And just to demystify writing, since this ultimately is a writing class, I don't know what other teachers have told you, all that stuff about style and transition, forget it, it's not important. All writing is this: you make a point, you support the point. If the point takes you 1 or 2 sentences to explain, have 12 sentences of support. Clear point, lots of support, that's all writing is. That's all it ever is. Even if you're writing a book or a paragraph or a poem, it's make a point, support the point. You can change where the point comes or whatever, but that's all it is. I say make this simple. The support to do it this way means you're trying to make sure that every time you have evidence, you found good evidence. You're not going to waste it. You're going to help the person understand what this evidence is all about, show them the evidence, and then explain it to them piece by piece. So that's what I'm doing. Let me move this next. So here's what we've done so far. Step 1, narrow down the point for each paragraph. Step 2, find evidence for each point. 3 pieces of evidence. And we've already gone over this. Should be valid and complete, et cetera, et cetera. You'll notice I have been pushing you guys to take longer quotes. I think that helps sometimes. So that's what we've done so far. Now we're ready for step 3, which is to integrate the using the hamburger method. Here's what I mean by hamburgering the quote. Top bun is a setup, usually 1 sentence. Setting up the quote means you would validate the source if you could. What makes this source believable? I try to mention that ahead of the actual quote. I mean, is it believable because it's being published in a scientific magazine? Is it believable because it comes from a 30-year study conducted by scientists in Switzerland? Is it believable because it comes from the nationally syndicated columnist? Whatever, I would put that in. I don't put in random stuff, just whatever makes it believable. I provide context if it's needed. Like, do I need to transition from something? Do I need to let you know some general information there? I also anticipate the point. Whatever the meat is saying, whatever the point is, I'm kind of letting you know what's coming. I don't repeat it. I just let you know. If I do that, then I can present the quote. And the quote should give you more information than the setup did. So the quote just means I might have to trim it a little bit or add to it, just make it clear. I punctuate it properly, I make sure I cite it. After the quote, I always reconnect. This is the bottom bun, holding it together. Probably the most important part, really. This is where I argue that quote, that piece of evidence is actually valid and it's good. And usually I do that by looking into the evidence. I point out specific details. What's the impact? What's being implied by those details? I explain the relevance or the consequences of this one piece of evidence. I do not repeat my topic sentence because repetition is pointless. It doesn't help you at all ever. So I'm always discussing something differently. That's why I want your evidence, like 3 pieces of meat in this paragraph, they should be linked, but they shouldn't be covering the exact same ground. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Let me show you an example of what I mean. All right. Here's the topic sentence I've been working on in my example. This is the topic sentence I'm working on. One way that legalizing marijuana will harm society is that over time, its use can seriously impair one's memory. So it's all my evidence is about marijuana hurting a person's memory. So I found these quotes, and I think I've put these somewhere on the site already. Here's a long quote from this guy Manella, where he's describing a study well, let's just read it real quick so you kind of have how big this quote is when I first got it. And keep in mind, I took the whole thing and I realized later, I'm going to trim this down. Let's just see what I'm trying to work with. For this study, researchers randomly selected more than 5,000 young adults from 18 and 30 and followed up with them at varying points over 25 years. At the end of the 25 years, there were more than 3,400 participants still in the study. Their cognitive function was measured using standardized tests of verbal memory, processing speed, and executive function. They found current marijuana use was associated with poorer verbal memory and processing speed. And lifetime exposure to marijuana was associated with worse performance in all three areas of cognitive function. Although past exposure to marijuana was associated with worse verbal memory, it does not appear to affect other domains of cognitive function. That's a giant quote. I can't use that big a quote, or it's very rare you want to quote that big. I will cut it down. But I thought, yeah, this is pretty good for me. I think this is a good piece of meat. So what I've got here is topic sentence. That's not the top bun. For me to get from topic sentence to this giant piece of evidence, I have to provide a top bun right there and a bottom bun after the evidence. That's what I'm going to try to do now. You guys have done this. You've got a topic sentence. You got quotes. Now we're going to talk about what's next. All right. Let's talk about a setup. So my setup, the top bun between the topic sentence and this quote. I want to validate, give context, anticipate. What validates? What context is necessary? Well, all right. Here's what I got. This comes from the CNN website. It's something published, the National Institute on Drug Abuse. I've got a lot of specifics about the study itself. I've got the author. I've got the article title. Let me take a look at it again. This guy named Manella. Down here, I'll just tell you, this article was, a study was conducted by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. And there's some information in the quote itself about the study. I won't ask you guys questions. I'll just tell you, here's my process. I thought, this Manella guy, he's nobody. I don't know him. He's not a scientist. He's a writer. National Institute on Drug Abuse is not bad. I'm going to use that in my setup. But since I got to cut this anyway, I thought, what really makes this believable to me, why I believe this is true, is because that study went for 25 years. That's pretty good. That's a pretty big study. So I might take some of that information, take it out of the quote, use that in my setup, along with the Institute of Drug Abuse. I'm not going to copy the quote, but let's take some of that information and use that in my setup to introduce this quote a little bit better. That was my thinking on this. So yeah, I'm going to try to do that. And then I'm saying, anticipate. What is the point of this quote? That study showed how people smoke marijuana for a long time, have some cognitive, they lose some of their cognitive function. And all right, so here's what I came up with as a setup. This is my topic sentence, then the setup is underlined. One way that legalizing marijuana will harm society is that over time its use can seriously impair one's memory. This result was confirmed by a 25-year-long study conducted by the National Institute of Drug Abuse. That's my validation. I'm letting you know, hey, this is real, which showed how prolonged use of marijuana has a clear negative effect on the development of verbal memory skills. That's me anticipating what's coming. The context is just this result. Leaning back to my topic sentence. So that's my setup, and now I'm ready for the quote. All right, second step, you present the quotation. I might have to trim the quote. I might take stuff out, which I do. I put the ellipsis, the 3 dots in there. If I want to add anything to the quote, they got to be in the square brackets. I am super much in favor of this. Always quote complete thoughts. Some teachers teach that blending thing where they say, oh, you write a sentence and blend your sentence into the quote. I'm pretty much against that. I mean, if you can do it and do it well, good. But I found that when students try to do that 9 out of 10 times, they've created extra problems that they don't need to create. Setup sentence, period. Quotes, complete sentence, period. Reconnections, periods. Everything's clearer. So I would keep doing that. All right, here's what I did with that quote originally. Let me look at the original quote with you once again. Original quote was this big long quote here. All right. Here's how I cut it a little bit, since I took some of the quote information and I used it in my setup. So all I've got now is this: the cognitive function of participants was measured using standardized tests, et cetera, et cetera. I won't repeat it all. This is what I got left, and that's my meat. And now I'm ready for the bottom bun. Reconnection. What am I going to do? What am I going to say after the quote? I want to use material. I'm going to talk about material within the quote, within the passage where I got the quote. I'll explain why is this good evidence. It's an option. I could consider, what is this implying, this quote? I have a lot of things I can do here. It's helpful to go into details and discuss why is that detail so important, or discuss consequences. Why should we be worried about this? Don't repeat or reword your point. In other words, the point of the topic sentence, don't go back to that. So what I did was this is my reconnection here. This is what I decided to focus on. The NDA research involved thousands of teenagers. That's information that's not in the quote. I found that in the article. Tracking them into adulthood, testing them periodically throughout the study. The implication is, again, young people are particularly at risk when developing a habit of smoking marijuana. In time, those losses in their ability to form and express thoughts cannot be regained from quitting the habit. That's also information that wasn't in the quote, but I got from the source. If I put it together, I've got this, which I will not read to you. I just want to, what I'm pointing out to you is, there's my topic sentence. This is what my whole paragraph's about right there. Here is the quote. It's way down here because I have a top bun. And after that quote, I've got a bottom bun. And that's one hamburger done. Now I'm going to move to my next hamburger. So I've already started moving to my next hamburger right here in the very next sentence. Not only long-term memory, but also short-term can be impacted by concentrated doses of marijuana, as shown by a significant study on blah, 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 blah. That's my top bun for the next one. Quote, then I go and explain it. That's basically the system that I think works the best here. And if you haven't done this before, it might just take a little work. That's why I do it as draft. You know, we work on a draft this next week. But I would kind of like, where are we right now time-wise? Yeah, okay. Well, let's see where, if I can get you guys to try this yourself. All right, let's go here. So let me do another quick exercise with you then. What about this? All right. Here is on the next, on the very next thing on week 3, I've got this. It's a quote usage exercise where I've given you the next, actually it's the next piece of meat in my paragraph. I give you some context where I got it and gave a note about it. But basically, how can I incorporate this into my paragraph? It's another piece of evidence that marijuana may have some effect on the memory. Can you write a setup to this quote and write a reconnection to this quote that I could use as my top and bottom bun around this quotation? That's what I want to do with you guys right now. I want to at least start that process. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you have questions? All right. And by the way, let me also explain that there's going to be a lot of information put into week 4 later today. I'll put it in there. That kind of covers this material and shows a screencast with it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just kind of tossing you in right now, just so you're getting some practice right away. All right, I'll toss you in another breakout room. Go to that other one. Look at that quote. I'm just asking for a setup sentence that could come before the quote, validate it, anticipate it. And then after the quote, a sentence or two that explains why is it good evidence, okay? All right, okay, looks like you're in, I'll just throw in the same breakout rooms. Go back there, reestablish those connections with other people. Give me a setup and a reconnection to my new quote so I can add it to the paragraph. All right, there it is. Go, everybody. Go in those rooms. Figure out what I'm trying to get you to do. Save your questions. I'll pop into the room. You can ask me all the questions, and I will help you. All right, okay, there they go. Off they go. Working on this new problem.
I haven't been invited to one.
Wait, what? What do you mean? Oh, wait a minute. Why aren't you? Okay. Why? Why did that happen?
I don't know.
Did you leave and come back?
No, I've been in the call, so I don't know.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to put you in number 1 because they only have 3 people in there. Maybe that's one you were already in. Okay, all right, there you go. You're invited now.